101 review. Book 101's about the bookstore ride for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a relationship coach, leadership guy, a pastor, and of course, an author too, and the author of the book Finding Connection in a Disconnected World, or unknown other than Mr. Keith
Hey,
Spurgin.
Daniel, it's good to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome. Mr. Keith, on Book 101 Review, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, my name's Keith Spurgin, and I was a pastor for about almost 30 years. Also started a business called Growth Resourcing Group, which resources leaders, provides support, encouragement, and accountability to them. Uh, I've been coaching people in relationships and leadership for several decades and wrote this book, and it's coming out next month, and I'm super excited about it.
Congratulations, Mr. Keith. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your book. And let's market it. I hope I can help you for that. So,
Yeah.
we are more digitally connected than ever, yet you argue we are fundamentally disconnected. What is the specific unknown you are referring to? Is it our true selves, our neighbors, or our deeper sense of purpose that gets lost in the noise?
I think really it's knowing ourselves, but even more profoundly is knowing other people. We have all these connections on social media and technology. I mean, every day I can talk to people on the other side of the world. Sometimes I'm driving down the road talking to people on other continents. But with all that technology and all the social media, the surveys, the research over and over again tells us that we are more disconnected, more isolated, more lonely than we've ever been as human beings. And that just has detrimental impacts on our physical bodies, on our spiritual life, on our emotions, on our mental health. And so, that's a big reason why I wrote this book to help people bridge that gap.
Yes, and thank you for that. Mr. Keith, you frame this is a search for a connection. In a world of endless social media followers and messaging apps, what specific type of connection are we actually painfully missing?
I think it's that connection to people who really genuinely know us and we genuinely know them. We all need an inner circle in our lives of people who we know the good, the bad, and ugly about them. They know the good, bad, and ugly about us, and we still love each other. Some people that we can disagree with. And that's a lost art these days of being able to disagree with somebody and yet still be in relationship with them. So I think we're just missing out on so much in that. Part of what we're losing is our ability to grow as people because, when you're jumping from one relationship to another or from one job to another, you don't develop the muscles that you need to grow to become the kind of fully functioning human being that we all want to be.
Interesting, Mr. Keith. Interesting indeed. Is our disconnection primarily a technological problem, a sociological one, or a spiritual one? Or is it the toxic interaction of all three?
I think it's all of those. But I do think that there's an impact that social media has had on our world where people sit behind computers and, you know, lob pot shots at people, say terrible things to people that they would never say to them face to face. And so it develops this toxic, uh, very accusatory and attacking environment with people that we disagree with, as opposed to sitting down and just having a reasonable conversation face to face. Because when you're behind a screen, you feel a lot more brave and a lot more willing to say things that you wouldn't say when you're sitting with someone face to face. And I just think that's tragic, honestly. That wasn't even something you could do 30 years ago. It wasn't even available to us. So I think we've just lost the art of connecting.
Hmm. The loss of connecting, well, the art of connecting, well, something we need to ponder, people, on the personal and psychological impact. We have data on rising loneliness, especially among younger generations. How
Mhm.
does your book move beyond diagnosing this epidemic to offering a tangible personal antidote?
Great question, Daniel. The second part of the book, so there's three parts of the book, and part two is all about how do you actually build healthy relationships? Because I think that's part of the problem is people think, oh yeah, I want great relationships. I don't know how to do that, you know? So I actually break it down in the book. What are these critical components that are necessary to build a healthy ongoing relationship with someone? And, we used to kind of get that in our home environments or in our communities where we stayed in the same community our whole lives. We learned how to do all that. We don't have that anymore. So this book is kind of an antidote to help us learn how to do that.
Mr. Keith, you likely address how curated digital lives fuel every and alienation. What's the first step to breaking free from exhausting cycle of campaign or behind the scenes to everyone else highlight reel?
Nobody really likes my answer on this one. but but the truth is the answer is vulnerability. Until we're willing to start being more real with other people, being more genuine and authentic, um, and get out from behind our curated lives and our curated screens and our curated look and all the things, and be real with people, we're not going to have real relationships. It's been said many times before, but I'll just say it again. People they admire our accomplishments, but they're drawn to our weaknesses because it's like, oh, me too. Oh, yeah, you feel that way sometimes. Yeah, me too. And that's where a real connection starts to happen, is when you start to get more vulnerable and more real. You can't do that the first time you meet somebody. You don't share your whole life with them. That's just weird. But over time, you intentionally share more and more of yourself as you build trust. That's how we break out of that. And nobody likes that answer, but it's the only way you're going to get there.
Vulnerability, people. How do we reconnect with our authentic selves when so much of our daily interaction is performative, crafted for likes, professional
Mhm.
networks, or societal expectations?
Mhm. Well, again, it's being vulnerable, finding some people you can be vulnerable with and that are willing to be vulnerable in return. That's why we need that inner circle. Like, and I think there's media kind of promotes this idea that if you just go through enough people, you'll finally find someone that you can really connect with. And it's almost like when I find that person, we won't have any problems anymore. We won't have any issues anymore. That's just unrealistic. We live in a broken world with broken people. Every relationship you ever have in your life is going to have challenges, going to have difficulties, going to have conflict. So we've got to be real about that, be authentic about that, be genuine about that. Hey, I'm struggling. Or when you said that, that really hurt me. What did you mean? Help me understand. Um, I've found that 95% of the time when I go to someone with something like that and I say, hey, here's what I heard you say. Is that what you meant? 95% of the time they come back with, that's not even what I said. No, I didn't mean that. No, that's not what I was trying to say at all. And that vulnerability of being to put yourself out there, it helps you then reconnect with people that you may have written off and thought, oh, they hate me, or they think I'm this, or they think I'm that. But the vulnerability draws us back together.
On practical pathways to connection, Mr. Keith, for someone feeling profoundly isolated but intimidated by the idea of connection, what
Mm.
is small, manageable, brave first action your book recommends?
Yeah, I mean, I want to recognize here that there are people listening who there's probably people who listening who deal with massive anxiety in their lives, and to think about being vulnerable with somebody, I recognize that's not easy. It can be super challenging. So I would just encourage you, if you're super isolated, start with something very simple. Just share, I don't know, something that you just are wrestling with a little bit. It doesn't have to be something deep at the first time you do it with somebody. It could be something very simple, like, man, I had a rough time sleeping last night. I was kind of anxious and just couldn't fall asleep, and just see how they react. you know um, some people will react really well. I find most people do. They'll be like, "Oh, really? Are you okay? What's going on? How can I help?" Things like that. They'll ask questions. But every once in a while, there'll be somebody who's just like, okay, I don't want to, they just walk away, or they don't want to hear it, or they're like, well, that's dumb, or whatever. Well, the good news about that is when somebody reacts poorly to your vulnerability, that tells you, okay, that's a person I can't go very far with. This relationship's not going to go very much farther. Okay, well, at least I know. I know now. Early on, I know that. But the people who respond well, man, okay, now the next time I'm with that person, I can share a little bit more of myself because we've built some trust, and hopefully they start to share a little bit more of themselves. So just start small, something really simple. I mean, like I said, just I struggled to sleep last night. I was kind of wrestling, and my thoughts were whirling, just something real simple like that, and just see how they respond. I think that's a great starting place.
Beyond the digital like, what does a meaningful, nourishing connection look and feel like in practice today? How is qualitatively different from the dopamine hit of a notification?
From the what? I'm sorry.
From dopamine hit of a notification.
So can you rephrase the question? I'm not sure I totally understand what you're asking me.
So beyond just in digital like, once you
Yeah.
are on Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
and other social platform,
Mhm.
aside from likes, what
Yeah.
connection look like feel?
Well, I think when you that's a great question, and I'm not against social media. I have social media, and I'm not against it at all. I do think you have to be careful with it, and not fool yourself into thinking that those likes mean I'm deeply connected with these people, because it doesn't. It doesn't. It does give you a dopamine hit, which is great. Um,
Yes.
but you know, I think as human beings, since prehistoric history, as human
Hmm.
beings, we've cloistered together in communities for protection, for safety, for the ability to gather food, for connection. We've always done that as human beings, and there's a reason for that. The reason is because we are designed for connection. Brene Brown has this great quote. I quote her in my book, and she says, we are hardwired for connection as humans. And when we don't have that, there is suffering. And it's absolutely true. So we need something beyond likes. We need actual conversations with people, and looking, what my wife calls it, eyeball time, where we're looking each other in the eye, and we're having real conversations, because that's how we're designed. That's that's the way we're made. And so without that, we lose some of our humanity and we
Hmm.
become machines in a way. And that's not who we are. I'm not sure I answered your question, but I'm doing my best I got right now.
Indeed, Mr. Keith, in an age of texting and commenting, have we forgotten how to have a real, vulnerable, face to face conversation? What are the rules for connecting conversation that you propose?
Yeah, I'm so in the beginning of the second part of the book, I talk about trust as the foundation of relationship. Like without trust, you don't have a relationship. You might have an acquaintance or you might have an enemy, but you don't have a relationship. So the first component to healthy relationships is starting to build some trust with the other person. And I think especially in romantic relationships, but even in all relationships, we tend to either we land on two different ends of the spectrum. Like we all have different levels of risk that we're okay with. Some people go into a relationship and they don't trust anybody at all. And some people come in and they're like, I just totally trust whoever I'm talking to. And like I said earlier, they share too much too fast. But the
Mm-hmm.
other end of it is people who don't trust at all and they hold back so much. So the only way you can start to build trust is to take a risk. And again, people don't like to hear that, but there is no passion without risk. There's just not. So whenever I ask people, I'm like, okay, what kind of relationship do you want? They never use words like boring or stagnant or mundane. They don't ever use words like that. They use words like exciting, adventurous, passionate, all those kind of words. Well, you don't get that without risk. And so what happens a lot of times is we start off in a relationship and we have some common ground. Like maybe we like the same things or I'm in a cycling club. We all like bicycles and we talk about bicycles, we talk about cycling and all that. But if you don't ever go past that level, which is really just facts and information, if you never go past facts and information to opinions and emotions, then there's no depth to the relationship, there's no risk, and therefore there's no passion. So once we've established some facts and information, the next step is we start to share some of our emotions and some of our opinions about things, and we test the waters to see how the other person responds and to see if they can handle that kind of conversation. Some people can't handle it. They don't want it. They only want facts and information. And unfortunately, sometimes those are our family members that we'd like to be closer to, but we can't because they can't handle it. But at some point, you kind of got to accept that and figure out who the people are that you can go farther with. So you start with facts and information and then move to opinions and emotions and see how that goes. And there's a whole another dynamic that happens on the other side of that, which I don't know if we have time to get into, but I'll follow your lead on that.
Mr. Keith, as relationship coach, leadership guy, a pastor, and as well as a debut author, what are your short term and long term goals?
My personal short term and long term goals.
Yes.
Yeah, well, so as a coach, I have a business I mentioned earlier called the Growth Resourcing Group, and we are expanding that. And so if there's leaders out there who are interested in being a part of a network of leaders who want to have real relationships and have healthy dynamics in their culture so that they can be more effective and more profitable, I'd love for you to check out our website, growthresourcing.org. And then my book is coming out, as I mentioned, February 10th. Pre-orders are open now, so you can do that wherever you buy books, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, wherever. Um, And my short-term goal with the book is if I get 300 pre-orders by February 10th with Barnes and Noble, they will put the book in every one of their brick and mortar stores around the country. So I think I'm at about 250 right now and looking for 300. So
Good luck with that, Mr. Keith. Good luck, good luck. And wish you all the best and more
thanks, Daniel.
success. Yes, and can you please come over to my entrepreneurship 101 and let's talk about business mindset? And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Um, I would say the first thing to do is to really figure out what is the dream in your heart. What do you really want to accomplish? What is the problem that you want to solve, that you feel like you should be solving? Because that's really what business is about, is solving problems. And once you figure out what the problem is that you're going to solve, man, people want that. They're looking for problem solvers. And so
Yes.
I would start there.
Mm, definitely. And thank you for that advice, Mr. Keith. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, so many, so many. This might surprise you, but one of my favorite, all-time favorite books is a book by David McCullough called The Wright Brothers. It's about the two brothers who invented the airplane. It is one of the best books I have ever read in my life, and there's so many leadership principles in there, relationship principles in there. It's a fascinating read. Those guys were absolute geniuses who never went to school, and they literally rewrote the book on aeronautics and figured out how to fly planes. So, man, I recommend that to everybody. It's such a great read.
Yes, thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Keith. And I hope one day one of our generation will create something that we will travel beyond our solar system,
Yeah,
beyond our universe,
that'd be
only
awesome.
beyond the multiverse as they talking about. And let's talk about your journey as the book's impact. What was your own moment of acute disconnection that become the catalyst for writing this book?
Yeah. There's a couple of them. The one I'll talk about today is, we started. I started my first organization. I was 34 years old, and it took off. It was great. It was so fun, and we were having a blast. And so many people were coming, and it was growing, and I was making more money than I ever made in my life. And I my one of my best friends literally, I felt like out of nowhere, just kind of turned his back on me. And I thought he was part of what we were doing. And it really felt betrayed by him. And then at the same time, my wife, who had helped us start this thing, started pulling away and backing up. And I realized my marriage is falling apart. I'm having all this external success, and some of these closest relationships in my life are falling apart. And I'm building an organization that's all about helping people feel connected. And I felt completely disconnected and felt unknown, felt misunderstood, just felt like, man, what is going on? And um, fortunately, my wife and I took a 6 month sabbatical and reconnected our relationship and got some mentoring and coaching and help and reestablished our relationship. And our marriage is now, we've been married 38 years now, which is amazing. But that was a season where I was like, something is wrong, something is off. I got to learn how to do this. And out of that, I started learning a lot about how to build really healthy relationships. And that's a lot of where this book comes out of, is what I learned the hard way of what it takes. And now I've got teams of people working with me. I'm closer than I've ever been with before, and I got a great marriage, and it's not perfect, but it's really, really good, and I'm thankful.
Yes. Thankful enough, right?
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
grateful, people. Be grateful. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Keith, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in its third season, on my book 101 review in its sixth season this year, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in its sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fourth season, science 101, sex 101 in its third season, and my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr. Keith, what was the most surprising counterintuitive discovery about connection that you made while researching and writing?
I think the most counterintuitive thing I've learned is that conflict is actually the doorway to intimacy. And that has changed my whole thinking about conflict and how we work through it. And it's so powerful. And I should say, conflict handled well is the doorway to intimacy, because you can handle conflict really poorly and it moves you in the opposite direction of intimacy. But when you learn how to handle conflict well, you actually get closer on the other side of it. And I just think that's amazing.
That is amazing for sure, Mr. Keith. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, you can go to keithspurgin.net and read my blogs and find out more about the book. And you can pre-order through Barnes and Noble from there. And I'd love for you to be part of my newsletter list. You can put your email in there, and I'll give you a free digital copy of the book. And would love to have you as a part of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, people must support Mr. Keith Spurgin, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering unknown will rise. So, one more question, Mr. Keith. If your book succeeds in its mission, what is the one shift in feeling or behavior you hope a reader experiences after turning the final page? How will the world look different?
I hope that we all become more connected. We live in a world that's so divided. There's so much polarization, so much division. And I just believe we're so much better when we come together. We have so much more in common than we have different. And so I hope all of us who read this book will be people who have uniters rather than dividers. That's what I really hope.
Mr. Keith, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Likewise. More to come, people. See you soon.